Hello out there. We're absolutely not ready to be here, but we're here. We're on the air. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. Happy May 31st. 5:31. Daniel, good morning. Johnny, good morning. Bitcoin changes everything, aka Bodie. Good morning. Let's get the zaps running here. Let's make sure we got the right title on the zap machine. Over in zap.stream, Letha is there. Letha's always the first to comment over on zap.stream. Hopefully we have a few more folks over in zap.stream today after we converted a few. Yesterday, I think there was 3 or 4 people who joined the zap.stream from YouTube yesterday. So zap.stream is a go. Johnny says, Crypto Heathen was on Rug Pull Radio last night. That's interesting. I've never listened to Rug Pull Radio before, but it's a Bitcoin show, I believe, correct? Maybe I'll have to check that out today. Ninju. Whoa. Good morning. Adam. 444. Good numbers. Good morning. Sir Humano. Good morning. Okay, it's Friday. We'll cut the bullshit for a sec here. As everybody knows, this is Friday. This is the live Q&A. This is our favorite day of the week. This is the 21st edition of Bitcoin Q&A. 21 on 5/31. I don't know. If you believe in numbers, if you believe in that kind of stuff, I don't even know what you'd call it. Patterns, or I don't know. I'm not going to try to go too far outside of my zone today. A little bit tired. Got home at just before midnight last night. Probably didn't get to bed till about 1-ish or later. And we were up at 6 this morning. So we're here. Brain's a little bit scrambly, but there's zero rust. We should have a nice, smooth show today. Carl, good morning. Muslim Bitcoiner says, yesterday's verdict about Trump is a blessed curse. Judicial system, officially kangaroo court. Nixon didn't see a day in jail. Nations will definitely be dropping U.S. bonds like U.S. drops bombs. U.S. drops bonds like how U.S. drops bombs. Yeah, there's some bad stuff happening in the bond market in the U.S. If people took a deep dive into the bond market, I haven't. And so I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly what's going on here. I just know that the situation there is very dire. And I've been listening to a few different shows the last couple of days talking about how the first one is that nobody's buying U.S. bonds. And that's a big problem for them. So I think they've had a couple of auctions in the last little while, and there has been very little demand for U.S. bonds, which is a problem. And I think I saw that $9 trillion worth of bonds were expiring this year, and they're going to be rolled over into higher rate interest rate bonds. So it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And there's so much capital in the US bond market from around the world. It's kind of scary, honestly. It's kind of scary. I mean, we feel it with the inflation stuff, but there's some big problems that are brewing in the world right now. And the only thing to keep in mind throughout here is that everything is attached to the fiat system except for one thing, and that is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an asset that you can take completely out of that system, completely. You don't have to trust anybody. There's zero counterparty risk to Bitcoin. You can take that asset, you can hold it, and you can just wait. You can wait for Bitcoin to do its thing. You keep, obviously, some cash in terms of what you need to live off of. But there's something that's going to happen here. And I mean, I don't like making any sort of predictions or being a doomer in any way, but it's an election year. It's June tomorrow, which means that there's 6 months before the election or less. And historically, there's been some major event happen in the world every 4 years in line with the US election. Vegan Bitcoiner is also in the zap.stream. It says, I am a convert. So I see a bunch of people on the YouTube today. The challenge for today, and there was a bunch of people who jumped on this yesterday and they got rewarded with some sats. But the challenge for you today is make your way over from YouTube into Zap.stream. It's just a much better experience. As I'm sure Letha, vegan Bitcoiner, who's there 2 days in a row now, so they must enjoy it. It's something that you try and you never go back. I refuse to watch like Rabbit Hole Recap and Citadel Dispatch now on YouTube because Zap.stream is just so much more enjoyable from an audience perspective. Being in the chat, you can share links, you can share pictures, you can zap other people in there. It's just a better place. BTC NOSTR newbie 1. Hello, fellow Bitcoiner. Good morning. Glad you could be joining us this morning. But in terms of Trump, it's one of those things like, I don't know how many charges. He was found guilty on all of them. The whole thing is an absolute sham from head to toe. And so I'm not going to waste much time thinking about it, talking about it, anything. There's going to be nothing that comes from it. I think it's going to wake a lot of people up to the fact that stuff like this is obviously political and there's really nothing wrong that happened there at all. It's just a political persecution. And the other thing too is this is going to open up a lot of new doors in terms of other presidents, because up until this point, I don't know U.S. politics, and so like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I do. But this is going to open the gates to be able to do the same thing to any ex-president of the United States, and that's a big deal. That's a big deal. They've been coming after Trump for 7 years now. And they haven't found a sniff on him. I mean, you could say that he's guilty of whatever the hell they charged him with, but the real crimes were by the Obamas, the Clintons, the Bushes, and their time will come. The gates are open now. The precedent has been set, and I'm a believer, and I don't really care if people will agree with this or not, but I'm a believer that this whole thing is happening by design, including Trump's arrest or whatever the hell they're charging him with now. Lock Sky, good morning. Sir Humano says, great show. Know it days ago. From a couple days ago, maybe? Became one of my favorites. Which one was that? Which one was that one? Neil says, can Canadians buy MicroStrategy stock? It's leveraged to Bitcoin. Yeah, I have some MicroStrategy stock. I was talking about the other day, and there's actually quite a few comments over on YouTube on that video about MicroStrategy. I just think that what MicroStrategy is doing in terms of leveraging fiat and buying Bitcoin and growing the company, as the equity grows, as the company becomes more valuable, he keeps taking on more debt, and he's getting very low interest rates on his debt, and he's just buying Bitcoin, and he's going to form other companies within MicroStrategy that generate more Bitcoin. And so I think that if you do have capital in the old system and you're looking to have it exposed to Bitcoin, I think that MicroStrategy stock is the best one. Better than the ETFs, I think, but don't take my advice. So just as a reminder here for the folks who might be new to the channel, every week we do a Bitcoin Q&A live on the channel here. This is the 21st edition. And so I have some comments here that I want to talk about, some discussions. Oh, felt the sneeze coming on there. My allergies have been really, really, really bad lately. So I got a couple things to discuss, a couple questions to answer. But if you do have any questions, I try to keep up with the chat as best that I can. And so if you have any questions about Bitcoin, about what were the other things we were talking about throughout the week, business stuff, living the future, whatever it is, just toss it in the chat and we'll discuss it. I did see that Crypto Heathen just zapped 420 sats over in Zap.stream. So thank you, Crypto Heathen. You a little bit late, but we were talking about you earlier, so you might have to press rewind here. Johnny said that you were on the Rug Pull Radio last night. Can you share the clip in Zap.stream, if you don't mind? Couple things here over in Zap.stream. BTC NOSTR newbie says, I'm new. I had issue with my Primal wallet, but it's working now. Every Zap I get, I'm self-custodying to my Moon wallet. Good strategy. I think that the one thing to keep in mind there, I wouldn't be using Moon. I'm assuming you're not overly familiar with the different wallets and their capabilities and stuff, but I would not be using Moon for that. I've used Moon to self-custody Bitcoin before. I had a bunch in my wallet, and I think I paid about $120 worth, which would have been about 100,000 sats to move that out of the Moon wallet, because the Moon wallet's all held on chain. And so every time, unless you're moving it out in Lightning, you're going to get charged a lot of fees for moving that one if you ever want to move it or spend it. So I would not be using Moon to do that personally. So what else? What else is over here? Crypto Heathen says he wasn't on the radio. So that is officially fake news. That's a good example of verifying things before you say them on air. I don't know who said that. Johnny said that. Crypto Heathen, you were on Rug Pull Radio last night. Maybe they were just talking about him. I don't know. Anyways, we usually start the show with some metrics. Didn't have time to do that today, but we'll quickly check on the mempool here and just see what's going on, because I don't know myself. So this is a selfish thing in a way. See what's going on over here. So fees back up a little bit. We're currently at block height 845,909, which means that 845,909 blocks, Bitcoin blocks, have been mined since the very first one back in 2009. The sats per VByte today, the fees, if you're transacting on the layer one, and this is something you need to pay attention to if you're using a wallet like the Moon wallet and accumulating a bunch of UTXOs, you have to pay pretty close attention to the fees. So I'd say they're average right now. I wouldn't be moving Bitcoin today if I didn't have to. We can maybe, I mean, that's kind of my own little gauge of the network, but we'll also take a look at the official gauge from Bull Bitcoin. So this is feemultiple.bullbitcoin.com. Yeah, so they're average high right now. This, just pay attention to the last 365, the last year. The last 30 days isn't much of an indicator because it's too recent. There could be many things that happen, but use the last 365 days there, and it says that the fees are average to high. So I wouldn't be moving Bitcoin today unless I had to. On layer one, anytime you're moving it on Lightning or Liquid or eCash, you're not really affected by the fees. Oh, sorry, Johnny, I missed a few things here from you. He said they showed a clip that Jason Lowry retweeted a post. He wasn't doing an interview with Crypto Heathen. Ninju says, I'm pretty bullish on Bitcoin, but it's good to know if there are any scenarios where Bitcoin isn't more a good investment, which is news for you that will make a no deal. In terms of like, what am I worried about in Bitcoin? Is there any bad news for Bitcoin? There's really not. And that's the crazy thing about Bitcoin, is that there's really no bad news for Bitcoin. If you have a full understanding of Bitcoin and you run through every single scenario of what could happen, there are some things. They're a little bit more out of our control, though, I think, in terms of Bitcoin. But for the most part, anything that happens, any news, is always good for Bitcoin. And everything will continue to fall in price compared to Bitcoin because it's the only asset on Earth that's scarce and has a fixed supply. A fixed supply. That's the key there. So you could do whatever you want to it. And if you understand how the Bitcoin network proof of work consensus works, as they were talking about on Rabbit Hole Recap yesterday, there's really no way for bad actors to overtake Bitcoin. It's different from proof of stake, where if you had 30% of Ethereum staked, then you have 30% of the votes on how that, and that's why the Ethereum protocol has changed so much, because they have the ability to influence, like a small group of people within Ethereum have the ability to vote and influence the changes on there. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's basically whoever is running a node, that's who gets to vote. It has nothing to do with Bitcoin ownership. So I think people with a narrow understanding of Bitcoin think about all the things that can go wrong in it. But to me, always be bullish. There's no bad news for Bitcoin. Everything is good for Bitcoin. Vegan Bitcoiner says, I have Bitcoin on my Wasabi wallet on laptop. Do I really need a cold wallet? The thing I would say about that is keep between hot and cold wallets. Keep any amount that you're comfortable losing on a hot wallet. And if you're keeping it on a wallet like Phoenix, I'm not sure about Wasabi. I've never used Wasabi before, but in terms of like your 90% stack, you want to keep whatever Bitcoin you have now, you want to keep 90% of that forever through anything. You never want to spend that. That's something you can leverage it maybe in the future, use it as collateral, but you never want to spend that 90% of Bitcoin. And that's the stuff that you should be taking off of the devices, off of your laptops, off of your phones, and putting into cold storage, like a cold card or a Jade or whatever. Passport, I think, is another good one. But take it off the internet. Any amount on Phoenix is hot. It's all online. It's not real Bitcoin until you have it on layer 1. And the beauty of being in Bitcoin at this stage is that a very small percentage of people, of the population, are actually going to have their own UTXO on layer 1. So that's what I would say to that, is that you should consider getting a cold wallet, a cold card, if you have your Bitcoin on your laptop. Hey, Noah's over in the chat, zap.stream. Made it onto zap.stream. There you go. Silver Fox says, how do I connect my Phoenix wallet to zap.stream? I'm not sure that you can. I think that you have to have a browser extension to use with zap.stream. And that's what I would use for zap.stream. Just use get Alby. Get the Alby wallet. And then from there, it's actually, you can send it through Lightning from Alby, Lightning to your Phoenix wallet. Let's say that you every day you could send it from your Alby wallet to your Phoenix wallet. But I don't think you can connect it directly to Phoenix wallet. So you pay a bit of fees for that, but probably worth it, I would say. Sorry for my English. I'm a little rusty. That's okay. I only know English. So anybody who knows more than one language, I have a lot of respect for. Although at the same time, I don't think it's something that I would be wasting my time with right now. In terms of learning a new language, I think that was kind of a trend for a while, is that you want to learn as many languages as possible. We just have so much technology now that you can pretty much translate within seconds. And I know it's difficult if you're traveling to a country and you're trying to have a conversation with somebody, but to me, it's just not really worth the time anymore to learn a new language. With the tools and the translation stuff we have available now, the AI, it's pretty seamless for the most part. And I'm sure at one point here, depending on where this channel goes in the future, I'll probably be translating this into different languages as well. Zombie just zapped 420 sats. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. Bitcoin NOSTR newbie says, don't know how much hate I'm gonna get for saying this, but in my opinion, when Bitcoin on-chain layer fees become extremely high, it'll force people to use other Bitcoin layers or switch to other proof of work coins like XMR, Litecoin, etc. Yeah, I don't think that that's a bad take at all. I think that that's the reality. There's just not enough actual Bitcoin to go around. There's not enough UTXOs for every person on earth to have one. And it does make sense. Just think about this scenario. If we move into a world, a Bitcoin standard, where Everybody's accepting Bitcoin. Everybody's paying for things in Bitcoin. Think about going to a restaurant, and at the end of the meal, your waitress or waiter hands you your bill and you want to make a payment on layer one. Think about the process involved there. You're going to have to stick around for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. You have to wait. You have to set the fee high enough, urgent enough that your transaction gets confirmed and picked up by a block. And you could be waiting there for half an hour. It's completely out of your control. The blockchain is on average every 10 minutes, but sometimes it takes half an hour to mine a new block. If you watch the show here where we were putting a transaction through on layer one, it's not something that you're just going to do in a hurry ever. So for that, I mean, we're going to be using other tools that are available now, plus that will come in the future, like Lightning, Liquid, eCash, and it's instant. It's very low fees. It's instant. It doesn't take, you don't have to wait for a block confirm. It hits their wallet instantly. And there's nobody in between there either. And that's why the smart folks will start adopting Bitcoin at a faster rate. Hi there from France. Theo is over in the zap.stream chat. There you go. Love that. Good morning. Good morning. What else we got here? Have you smashed the like yet? Let's check. I don't even have my phone on today. So if you're new to this show today, if this is the first time watching the daily Bitcoin journey, it's not usually like this. There's usually a bit more of a structure to the show. But these live shows we do every Friday, and we just kind of drink some coffee, hang out. And I usually have a bit of a headache from a couple beers the night before. And that's it. It's a little bit scrambly, but that's okay. I think people enjoy it. Definitely not enough likes over in YouTube, but at the same time, who gives a pluck? Speaking of that, okay, I got a couple different things to talk about while we kind of get our feet under us here. So let me read a comment after I just said the word pluck. Let me read a comment here from somebody that they left on the channel yesterday. And this is a bit of a dilemma for me. And I'm interested to see what other people here think about this. So I'm obviously not going to, put all my reliance on the audience here to tell me what to do. But at the same time, I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. Okay, where is this? This is from Frank Duke. And there's a lot of comments on here that I see that are clearly just like people bored or want some attention or whatever it is. Here, let me take this off so I don't confuse people. We'll get to this question after. But this was a legitimate comment, and I have a bit of a dilemma here, and I'm not really sure how I should be proceeding with this. I have a gut feeling about it, but this is what Frank Duke said on 2 hours ago, actually, on one of the videos. Said, "You have excellent content, but your crude language prevents me from listening with my wife or children. I've listened to Earl Nightingale, Paul Harvey, Zig Ziglar, and other great motivational speakers from the past for years, and I've never ever heard one of them utter crude cuss or swear words. You're new to YouTube and want to grow your channel, and you are unwittingly alienating a group of conservative Christian watchers, myself included. If I have limited time and have a choice of channels to watch, I will always choose one that I know the creator does not allow profanities. I know that foul language has permeated all aspects of our society, and that is a small part of the reason why this once great nation is in such horrible condition." Like I said, I'm not crapping on the comment. I'm even watching my swearing now after seeing that. I get it. I definitely understand where they're coming from there. It's hard for me. He said that I want to grow my channel and I want to get in front of more people, which I do. But at the same time, I think the reason why this channel has grown like it has in the last 6 months, I mean, in the last 30 days alone, this channel has over 850 new subscribers. And so to me, I think the reason for that is just because I'm not being anybody that I'm not. And the only way that I can show up and do these shows every day without reading a script is just by talking without really any filter on it. And so I apologize. I think that I wish there was a way that I could have bleeps on here or something along those lines. I just can't. I can't see it. And the one thing I thought of is that I could maybe put some sort of disclaimer after the video ends and that there's swear words in this one, but I don't know. Like, that's a tough one for me. I do appreciate the concern, the feedback, and all that kind of stuff. I've been getting a lot of feedback on the channel lately. Somebody said I post way too many clips, but they really enjoy them. So I was like, okay, well, the cool thing about the internet is that if you don't like something, you can just keep scrolling. But I do understand the people who are actually wanting to learn and enjoying the channel, and they can't because of the language. But at the same time, I cannot commit to not swearing. I just think that have to be genuine, and that's what it is for me. So I apologize to, who was that? Duke, some Duke, but the show must go on as is. Sorry about that. I mean, the one thing I would say, other than trying to stop it and trying to give some sort of disclaimer, is that just don't watch it with your wife and kids. I mean, these videos are always going to be on YouTube. I'm sure you're not always with your wife and kids. And if you really enjoy the content enough, then you'll find some time to watch it. I don't know. It's a tough one. Noah says, my thoughts on profanity. Oh, that wasn't Noah. Sorry, this is Vegan Bitcoiner. My thoughts on profanity. I used to swear a lot. It's common nowadays, but I don't anymore. I don't feel the need to. But you should be you, and it offends some. It's just too bad. Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. And there's some other comments in there from Noah, from Crypto Ethan. We won't repeat it, but yeah, I think that I agree with you there. I don't think I'm going to censor myself in terms of swearing. Look at this comment from Bart. I quit swearing on November 15th, 1974. Hardest thing I ever did, but worth it. Is that legit? Like, do you remember the day and everything like that? That's pretty impressive if you do. Daniel says, I wish Zap.stream worked on mobile. Yeah, so do I. And I think it will. You have to keep in mind here that all these things being built on Bitcoin right now, there's like 2 or 3 people working on them at each. Like Fountain, the growth and traction that Fountain's got over the last year with like 2 or 3 people on their team is incredible. Nothing short of incredible. And I remember I was having issues getting my Fountain wallet set up and everything on there when Fountain was very early. And so I sent an email to the company support, and it was Oscar who replied to me. And that's kind of where we are. And it was the same with Moon Wallet. Somebody over in Zap.stream, BTC NOSTR newbie, was talking about the Moon Wallet. And I had one of my transactions get stuck on the Moon Wallet. And so I emailed support there, and it was actually the founder of Moon Wallet who replied to me. So that's just kind of a good indication, I think, in terms of where we are and how early we are in this whole thing. Another example of, and I sent a screenshot to the Living the Future chat yesterday because Jeff Booth zapped one of my posts on Nostr, and he said, don't let it get to your head. And so I was debating whether or not I should share that on the show today or not. But Jeff Booth sent us 1,000 sats on Nostr yesterday. Matt Odell sent sats yesterday, zapped me, and NVK zapped me on Nostr yesterday. And that just goes to show, like, I really believe that guys like Jeff Booth, Odell, NVK, in 10 or 20 years from now, everybody's going to know who they are. I think they're already pretty big within this community here. And I think that they're going to be the people we look back to as real catalysts for the Bitcoin movement. And the only place you're going to be able to find stuff like that is on applications like Zap.stream, on Fountain, on NOSTR. Where else could you interact with people like that? Not only interact, but they send you Bitcoin for posting. That is pretty cool to me. And so everything's so early. I'm sure that the Zap.stream crew will have a mobile version eventually, but we're just not there yet. Just need some patience. Washed with whiskey. What did I miss here? Yeah, I mean, there's lots of comments in here. Sorry, I can't keep up to everything today. I might need to hire a chat moderator here. I missed this too. Bart, hey from Utah. I lived in Georgia and Alabama, so I can speak Southern too. Morning, Bart. Good to see you. Okay. Bodie over in Zap.stream says, Jor, I'm also a follower of Jesus. It's hard for me also to bridle my tongue, so I get it. I don't usually put it on for my wife and kids. Your content is appreciated, and thank you for understanding about how language affects people. Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I have different opinions on swearing and cussing and even, you know, Christianity and that stuff. And I'm not going to get religious on the show. The thing that I think holds a lot of people back from going down that road to Christianity is just the strict rules. Like, if I want to say the F word, I'm not going to say it now because I don't need to say it just like to say it. But I just don't see why that offends anybody. It's just a word. It doesn't have like any real negative connotation to it. It's just a word. And it's part of my vocabulary. And so I unfortunately say it a lot, but I don't mean anything bad by it. I just don't see how that could be considered something negative. And I think that there's a few, I do believe that people should follow something and have something that we can believe in. That's why Bitcoin works so well, is because there's a set of rules that everybody agrees to. It's totally voluntary and people can follow that if they want to. But I just think that there's certain parts of that I don't necessarily agree with. And I don't think that should push people away from it. Daniel says, Harbor Wallet from Mutiny looks very interesting. Yeah, I've watched a couple things on that already today since it came out yesterday afternoon. Rabbit Hole Recap talked about it a little bit. Also, I think BTC Sessions did a video on his, what was it? Why Are We Bullish last night? Did a bit of a run through. I'm not technical enough. I don't think it's ready for like the average person to start using it. But from what I understand of the Harbor Wallet is that it's very promising. It's a desktop client or a desktop wallet with a very strong focus on privacy. So I'm not going to say anything more on it because I haven't used it. But if you have some time today, and if you're a little bit more technical than myself, then you can check that out, Harbor Wallet. Winner says, who wants to send me some Bitcoin today? Well, here's the thing about that, Winner 33, is that we talked about this yesterday on the show. One of the universal or the laws of the universe that nobody can ever escape is that the rewards that you receive in life are directly correlated with the value that you give to other people. So by simply asking for people to send you Bitcoin, I wouldn't bank on that. You have to add value. Your rewards in life that you receive are directly correlated to the value that you provide to others in life. And Bitcoin's part of that. So if you want some Bitcoin, I would say get onto NOSTR and start adding value to people's lives. Make them laugh. Teach them something that you know that other people might not know. Just post pictures, post stuff and going on in your life, relatable content on Nostr, and people will send you Bitcoin. Jeff Booth sent me 1,000 sats yesterday for some post that I came up with in 10 seconds. But here's what I didn't do. I didn't send Jeff a message asking him to send me Bitcoin. Yeah, this is exactly my point. Brennan says, I have a buddy who replaces the F word with pink flamingos. You know what he means when he says pink flamingos. So is it a swear? That's what I mean. Like there are swear words that have a very negative connotation out there. it really depends how you use it. What context is it in? And I think that we've got to a point in society where we've kind of thrown that whole thing out the window. Any sort of context around anything, people just get so easily offended and triggered nowadays. They don't consider the actual meaning and intent there. Rick says, I don't swear, but I don't care if anybody else does. You do you. There you go. Okay, and maybe on this note, we're 35 minutes into the show today. This show always gets out of control, but that's why I love it, actually. I love the chaos. But the quote for today's show, and this is what I wanted to start with 30 minutes ago, but I saw that, I think Elon actually tweeted this yesterday, and I was checking out the Bitcoin news this morning. By the way, no Bitcoin news this morning. Unfortunately, this is like the first morning in history of the daily Bitcoin journey. We don't have any Bitcoin news. But the one thing I did want to say is that they're doing a live show on Twitter today, Bitcoin News, and it's called Upgrading Bitcoin Privacy Using Silent Payments. So that's today. They do a couple shows every week live on Twitter. And so consider checking that out. It's at 10:30 a.m. today. Upgrading Bitcoin Privacy Using Silent Payments. But the quote today, this is from Elon, or this is a meme that Elon shared yesterday. And it says, I am cringe, but I am free. And I thought about that. I saw it first and I was like, what does that mean, Elon? But then I thought about it. And I think that a couple things on it. The first thing is that we've kind of moved into the world in the last 4 or 5 years where there's a lot of people doing things like this channel online. And this never happened 10 years ago. There was nothing like a content creator 10 years ago. This is all new stuff. And we're kind of still going through the transition where if anybody out there, how can I word this? People who actually go down that road now, the average person considers it to be cringe. So the quote is, I'm cringe, but I'm free. So myself included, when I would see other people that I knew online doing videos, talking about stuff online, I did think that it was pretty cringe. And the only reason I thought that it was cringe is because it was we just weren't used to it. And I think a lot of people in life, the average person out there, they have issues with things that are out of their normal. That's why there's a lot of people who have Bitcoin derangement syndrome, because it's so totally different than the system that they know. And people get very squeamish and uncomfortable when they're exposed to things that they're out of their normal. And so what I would say on that is it's okay for other people to think that you're cringe. It's okay, because the only reason they think that you're cringe is because you're taking a different path than them. And there are people online, I will agree to this. There are people online that are cringe. And the only people that I think are cringe are the people who are being blatantly unauthentic. The people who are trying to be people that they aren't in real life online just to get views, using clickbait, using stupid faces on their thumbnails, all that kind of bullshit. I do find that to be cringe. But if you have a good message that you want to share with others and you're just being yourself, I think that is very freeing. Not only is it a place you can build a community there, like we've kind of built here in a short amount of time, but you're doing what you want to do. And there's no way that I could show up every single morning here and talk about, I was going to say the F in Bitcoin. Now I'm worried about it. I'm censoring myself. There's no way that I could show up here every morning and talk about Bitcoin if I didn't love doing it. And so it's okay to be cringe. If this is something that you want to do, if you want to start a Zap.stream channel and start earning sats and talk about the things that you love, there's nothing cringe about that as long as you're being yourself. So it's one of the themes around this channel is finding ways to earn Bitcoin for one, and just doing things that make you uncomfortable. So don't ever let other people's opinions dictate what you do in life. Even if they think that you're cringe, it's only because it's so far outside of their norm, which is okay, because you don't want to be like the 95% of people. You want to be in the 5% of people who are carving their own path in life. Sorry, I have a bad habit of just leaving comments up on the screen that I'm not talking about. Mowing for sats, let's go. Bitcoiner is a group that asks all its members to not trust each other, critically think and verify. Correct. Okay. Yeah. Muslim Bitcoiner says, then there's groups of people that take that quote to the extreme and make a rainbow month out of it. That is true. That is true. Hasib, this is a really good comment because I love this and I don't think enough people talk about this. But Hasib says, America will become a cash economy with the help of Bitcoin. Yes. Everybody's so worried about the fact that that Bitcoin's so transparent and you can see things on layer one, but there are already things being built that go around that. There's privacy tools that are built and will continue to be built that give you privacy. And if you look at Bitcoin at its truest form on the Bitcoin white paper, people who watch the show have heard me say this 1,000 times, but that's okay. The very title of the Bitcoin white paper, what does it say? A peer-to-peer electronic cash. Cash. And it's easy to hear that, but if you actually put it into practice, one example that I have is that when I was explaining this whole concept of Bitcoin and the cash aspect of it, hairdressers get it. They love cash. They love cash because the government in the last 10 years has come out and really cracked down on waitresses, hairdressers, the people who make tips for a living. They've started to tax that in a very aggressive way. And so hairdressers understand cash, the value of cash, because when somebody gets their haircut and they hand them a $20 bill, they don't have to pay any tax on that. Nobody knows that they took that $20 bill from me. There's no way for anybody else to track that. I get my haircut, I hand them a $20 bill. Nobody else knows about that. There's nobody in between that transaction. And with Bitcoin, it's the exact same way. I said, if you have a wallet of Satoshi wallet here or a Cashew wallet, I didn't want to confuse her, but it's the same kind of thing. If I have Bitcoin on my wallet and I send it to your wallet in exchange for this haircut, there's nobody else that knows about that transaction except me and you. And that's the cash part about Bitcoin. And I think a lot of people miss that. A lot of people are missing that, even Bitcoiners. Timber Crasher says, how do I find you on zap.stream? Very easily. Two options. Number one, you just type into your browser, zap.stream, and I should show up at the top there somewhere. Although they changed it the last little while. So maybe the better route might be type in bitcoinjourney.ca, bitcoinjourney.ca/stream. And we set up a direct link there that takes you from wherever you are to the zap.stream feed. And let me know if that works for you. Zombie says, yes, cash. Bitcoin is cash, even if you can't easily buy a coffee with it in the year 2024. James Bond says, I don't understand. Can't see these comments. Are they from Zap? No, they're probably from the Bitcoin. They're either on 88 Sats Radio or the Bitcoin Journey channel. I stream both every day to both channels, which is probably stupid, but whatever. But the reason I set up that channel is so we could do shows on living in the future. And I just put them as unlisted on there and then link it to the Patreon channel from there. So on some days, it's only on 88 Sats Radio because that's the days we're doing a Patreon show after Living in the Future. So I needed to have that backup account anyways to use the Living in the Future tier to connect it up to there. But that channel has like 600 and some subscribers now. It was just a backup channel. But people are finding the videos and finding the stream for it. So I'm going to keep doing it. Juan Sebastian Salazar Tovar, great name, asks, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin Cash and Litecoins? Greetings from Argentina. Bitcoin Cash, no, doesn't make any sense. And I know a lot of people online, and I just looked at myself on the screen here. I look pretty tired right now. And my eyes are really dry. Maybe I should pour some coffee in my eyes. I need a cold cloth. Okay. Bitcoin Cash, no go. Don't waste your time with it. Litecoin. And that's the funny thing is that anytime I trash like Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum online, all these dummies come out of the woodworks, call me a Bitcoin maxi. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I just think that Bitcoin is our last remaining hope in the world to actually get out of this surveillance state bullshit that we've been in for forever. But Litecoin, I think, will have a lot of use case in the future, and I think that a lot of people are missing out on Litecoin. If you have an option between buying Bitcoin and Litecoin, I would say that you should be buying Bitcoin 100 times out of 100. But there will be use for Litecoin, and it depends. The thing you have to keep in mind with altcoins, and somebody also asked this on the YouTube channel the other day, said, "What do you think of Solana?" Litecoin, I would buy way ahead of Solana, just because I think that Litecoin could actually be used in different countries as a medium of exchange, because it's fast, it's very cheap, it runs on the Lightning Network as well. And if you saw that MasterCard came out with a new, whatever you call it, new service, I guess, that is compatible with Litecoin or the Lightning Network. So Litecoin will be, I think, used in the future because of that. But the thing to keep in mind here with any of the altcoins is that Bitcoin is going to come out way ahead of all of them over time. Long enough time frame. Don't look week to week or month to month and the percentage up and down. Bitcoin over the long run is going to be way ahead of everything else. And it's not even going to be close. So that's the first part. The second part is that there will be other tokens that exist. There'll be lots of meme coins that always exist. Certain coins like Litecoin, probably Solana, they will be around for a while. But I think the only reason you'd be buying those instead of Bitcoin is if you actually have a use case for them. So I know that people hold Ethereum because they like trading other coins, and that's fine. But don't just hold Ethereum instead of cash because you can get more of it for less money. If you actually have a use case for the tokens, then I have no issues with people using them. There's going to be forever, people are going to be using altcoins forever. But it really just depends on what you need it for. And if you're using it strictly as an investment and hoping that, your purchasing power goes up over time, then Bitcoin is the only answer there. Bitcoin is the only answer there. AJ says, what would you say to someone who buys only altcoins because, I just said it there. What would you say to somebody who buys only altcoins because Bitcoin is too expensive? Then they don't understand Bitcoin. They don't understand Bitcoin. Because in a couple of years, what's going to happen here is that we're actually going to move from a Bitcoin standard onto a SAT standard. And when that happens, when Bitcoin becomes expensive enough where we can't even put a value on it anymore. Because when it gets high enough, if you think about this, let's say that Bitcoin gets to $3.5 million eventually in terms of fiat. How are you going to measure the difference between $3.5 million and $3.6 million is a lot. But in terms of like the tickers and measuring it, it's a non-starter. You won't be able to do that. And so we're actually, once the price gets high enough, we're actually going to fall to everybody's going to be valuing sats, not Bitcoin anymore. Nobody's going to know what a Bitcoin's worth. Only Bitcoiners will. But we're going to move on to a sat standard where it's going to be like 10 cents for a sat. No. Yeah, 10 cents for a sat. And then 50 cents for a sat. And then $1 for a sat. So the people who are buying altcoins because Bitcoin's too expensive just simply don't understand what's happening here. And then it's going to be $1 is equal to 1 sat. And then it's going to be $10 equals 1 sat. I don't know, there's going to be people in the comments if people watch this. Somebody left a comment the other day on the channel saying, if one sat equals $1, then the price of Bitcoin is $100 million. They left a comment there telling me as if I didn't know that. Like, yeah, it sounds crazy right now because of where we are, but it also probably sounded crazy that when Bitcoin was $5, that it would be $70,000 one day. But if you have an understanding of Bitcoin and where this whole thing's going and how the rest of the world is on a fiat standard, Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom. BTC NOSTR newbie says 99% of crypto needs to die, in my honest opinion. I mean, they don't though. They don't. There could be a billion altcoins. It doesn't matter. It has no impact on Bitcoin other than people will just take a little bit longer to get to Bitcoin, and they'll have to go through some painful lessons on that path to get to Bitcoin. And Zombie says, owning one Bitcoin is like owning 1 square mile of land. Nobody prices land in square miles because the price would be way too high. Exactly. And that, if you've been watching the show for a while, that's one thing that I've said. And kind of going along the lines of the moving from a Bitcoin standard to a SAT standard, is that the exact same thing happened with land. You can easily compare Bitcoin to land because they're the kind of the exact same thing in a lot of ways. It's the closest thing we have to Bitcoin is land. And so when people came over here hundreds of years ago over to North America, the first people who showed up here, they got land for pretty much nothing, because at the time there was a ton of land, there was a ton of supply, and there was no demand because nobody else was over here. So there was a very high supply and a very low demand for it. So you could get, they called it a township. That's what the first measurement of land was, a township. You could get a township of land for like $1 when you first came over here because the supply was high. There was a ton of land and nobody was over here. But slowly, as more and more people started showing up, the supply went down and the demand went up. So over time, as more and more people started showing up here, the price of land increased because the demand increased and the supply shrunk because it's a fixed asset. And the exact same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. And so in the early days there, they didn't have acres of land. They didn't have lots. It was just a township. That's what the measurement was. But then as more and more people came, similar how more and more people are showing up to Bitcoin here, they went from a township to a section, to a half section, to a quarter section, to an acre, to a lot. That happened over time. When the first people came over here, they weren't measuring out lots. They didn't even know what a lot was. Maybe they did from the old country, but it's the exact same thing, and the same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. Yeah, Bodhi says the supply went down and the demand went up, and they began subdividing it. And the exact same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. We're going to subdivide it from Bitcoin to sats, to microsats, to minuscule sats. I don't know. I haven't came up with the further names yet. Working on it. Timber Crasher says, I absolutely love Bitcoin, but recently I've been listening to Bitcoin Mechanic, and his most recent video, he raised the point of all the spam being pushed onto the network is a serious problem. It's a problem for a while. Like, there's no doubt that if the US government, let's say that Trump gets put in jail, the US government goes to shit, and they start spamming the Bitcoin network. Think about what they'd have to do with that. Because what is spamming the network? You're congesting it. That's what you want to do. So you're going to create a whole bunch of transactions. You're going to set the fees high enough so your transactions get put through faster than everybody else. Everybody else transactions will be sitting in the mempool while you're blocking it. You're congesting it with high fees because you have the ability to print money. But that will only last for so long, because think about what they have to do to keep that going forever. It doesn't work. It's a short-term problem, and it would be a big problem if somebody decided to do that. But it would only last a couple of weeks probably, because you think about the amount of capital that they would have to put into spamming the Bitcoin network to actually leave us sustainable or a long-term impact on it. So I'm not worried about that. The beauty of Bitcoin is that the harder people try to stop it, the more it works. And it's been proven over and over and over again. This isn't my opinion. This is history of Bitcoin. Anytime somebody's tried to stop Bitcoin or slow it down, it just finds a way. It grows 3 heads essentially. Sir Humano says, my only problem with daily use is the low anonymity. I can't say that word. And no, being anonymous. Don't try to give me that word on a Friday morning. That takes me to XMR, only shitcoin I can swallow. No, you don't need that. You don't need XMR. Just find the right tools within Bitcoin. They already exist. There's Liquid. There is eCash. eCash is very private. It's probably more private than XMR because it uses blind signature. So you send Bitcoin or eCash into the wallet, you send it out the other side. When that happens, you're anonymous. The only problem right now is that you can't do it with significant amounts yet. I wouldn't, because it's very early. Everything's still being tested, and it just doesn't make sense to be using a high amount of Bitcoin on there to do that. But it'll evolve. It'll evolve. This is a good question from Juan. How far do you think we are from deconvertibility? 1 sat equals $1. I think we're a ways away, but I also think we're a lot closer than people think. The world, $315 trillion. What is that? $315 trillion. That's the amount of debt that we have in the old system. There's no way to recover. They're doing everything that they can. The US is actually, what's the US doing in Japan right now? They're basically swapping currencies. The US is providing Japan with US dollars so they don't sell their bonds, the US bonds in Japan. Because if Japan started selling off the US bonds, because Japan's in a world of hurt right now. And if Japan started selling off the US bonds, that's a massive problem for the world. And so basically what the US is doing is they're just sending them US dollars in exchange for the yen, so they don't have to sell their bonds. They're putting all of these different little patches. It's like a boat. It's just essentially what's happening right now in the world is the Titanic is going down. The old system is going down, and they're putting up, like, you know, that, what's the seal? That infomercial, the seal, where he patches the boat and it stops the water from going into the boat. That's essentially what they're doing. Flex seal, that's what it is. They're doing that all over the Titanic right now. They're putting up as many different patches as they can on the ship, but it's going down. There's way too much water on it already. It's way too heavy. It's just a matter of time before it sinks. And so when that happens, it's inevitable. Everything from that system is going to fall into Bitcoin because nothing else has value. And if you here's a good, well, let's look at this quickly here, because this is a good indication of that. Let's go to, where are we here? Let's go to the time chain calendar. So this is a perfect example of this right now. How far are we from 1 sat equals $1? We're closer than you think, because if you look at here, this is, oh, I'm not even on. This is, I'll take the question down. So this is where we are right now, 1,474 sats per dollar. That's the Moscow time. So with $1, you can buy 1,474 sats with that. And with this, the beauty of it is we can actually go back to, let's go to block 325. This was 9 years ago. At this time, with $1, you could have got 260,824 sats with $1. 9 years ago. 260,000 sats for $1. And let's time travel here to today. And currently, for that same $1, you get 1,474 sats. And you also have to consider there that less than 1% of people own Bitcoin. On the S-curve adoption, we're in the flat stage still. So that movement there from 260,000 sats Moscow time to 1400 sats. That's just like a very small group of people. Wall Street's here now, which changed everything in Bitcoin going forward. But we're so far from being done here. It'll never end. It's just it's going to go on forever. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin. So third, the eyes bleed. That's how I feel right now. Is this me in the chat? I feel like my eyes are bleeding right now. Just allergies. I have really bad allergies, and they get pretty bad in the springtime. And believe it or not, I'm actually allergic to dogs. So if you've been tuning into the show, we just got a puppy about 2 months ago now, February 29th, 3 months ago. And so I'm allergic to him, but he's more than worth it. He's more than worth the cost of dry eyes. Love this question. We're over an hour here, but that's okay. We're going to keep going for a little while because it's Friday and there's a lot of people asking good questions in here. So I have no issues carrying on. But Kev says, just joined my Bitcoin question of the day. Would your parents/grandparents have been Bitcoiners at your current age? Yes. My grandfather, one of my grandpas worked in the bank. He was a very, very intelligent guy, very book smart, he was an accountant. I was an accountant in my past life as well, but very intelligent guy, very soft-spoken. He had a couple things go wrong in his life in terms of he fell off a ladder and paralyzed himself from the waist down. And so that kind of changed his life, unfortunately, at a young age. But my other grandpa was an auctioneer. And his whole life was cash. Everything was cash. You could sell. I remember being at all the auction sales as a kid, and I would help them with running the sheets back and forth. So they would record what the bidder number was, what the description was, and how much they paid for it. It would go back to my mom and my grandma in the camper. They would enter it into the computer or a ledger of some sort. And then everybody at the end of the auction sale would come settle their debts. So he would have like a basket full of things for $2. He would get it all the way down. If nobody wanted, he would get $2 for it. And I think that with that, just everything he did was in cash. And we've come so far from our grandparents. And there's a lot of songs that talk about this. One is they don't make them like that anymore by Jason Blaine. And I mean, even thinking about that gives me goosebumps. But it's the one thing that we're missing right now is people like that, the older people. And they've been through a lot of stuff. They weren't used. My grandpa would be so pissed if he had to live through these last 5 years in the world. Because even up to this point, as much as things haven't changed that much overall, but just the government suppression, the taxes, my grandpa would not have been a fan of what's happening right now. And we need more people like that. People are too, there's just too many sheep out there, essentially. And my grandpa would have been pissed, and he would have definitely been, whether it was Bitcoin or whatever it was, he would have found a way to find others, find a community, and really rally around that. He was a very small town guy too, an auctioneer. He'd go town to town, small town to town, and he knew everybody. And I think that there's a lot of things that we miss about that generation that I hope we can get back here. And I actually thought about doing a show in the future talking about that in terms of what we can do to get back to that. Things we can do, steps we can take in our life to get back to that age, because those are the people that we need more of. And unfortunately, we're losing them at an accelerated pace here. My grandpa's been gone for 10 years now. But that was the generation that knew what was going on. And there's just so much that we can learn from them. And they were very like proof of work people. They didn't look for shortcuts. They trusted it was handshakes and cash. And I think that that's what the Bitcoin community is all about, in my opinion. Okay. No, Dad, speaking of that, Dad's calling me right now. Sorry, Dad. I'll have to call you back in a couple minutes. Okay, well, we're an hour 5 into the show today. My eyes are really dry. I keep pointing at them. I keep pointing them out, which probably makes it worse. But I didn't get through any of the questions that I had on here. But that's okay. Let me just take a quick scan if there's anything that I wanted to talk about here. I want to give a couple shout outs here. The first one was Ronan. And a couple of these are just comments, and I'll just read them and maybe talk about them if we have some time. But Ronan says, hard truth. Most people do not understand money, and even fewer understand Bitcoin. Only once you choose to invest your time to understand this new technology, you will see that it is not only the most logical choice, but it is the only choice. Kind of going along with what we've been talking about the last couple minutes. This is another good comment here, and I wanted to talk about this one because Baccarat says, I'm surrounded by people who don't listen when I talk to them about Bitcoin for years. And so it is cool to watch your channel and someone else as pumped about Bitcoin as I am. And the one thing I did want to say about that's a good comment. And I know for a fact that a lot of people are going through that exact same problem. I've been through it before. Bitcoin can be a very lonely place. And I've been going back and forth between what I wanted to do with the Living in the Future channel. And I've decided, because the whole thing there was that we had the first initial crew there. There's 44 people in there. We started a group chat. You would not believe the stuff that happens in that group chat. It's amazing. It is. It's my favorite part of the day to open up the group chat, see Bitcoiners talking back and forth. I'm completely like just not withdrawn from it. I contribute where I can, but it's all happening without me there. And so I just think that it's such a good thing that we have to try to replicate that. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to open up a second group chat. I just didn't want the first one to get full of too many people in there and it just get too chaotic. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set up a tier, secondary tier for that. Set up a new group chat for Bitcoiners who want to converse, share resources, share ideas, really just help each other through this whole thing. That's what it's doing. And so I'm going to have that available soon. But if you are interested, if you're somebody who that sounds like something you would want to be part of, then sign up and I'll figure out what to do with it. I'm still going to set up the secondary tier, but in the meantime, you can go there right now, go to in the description below, go to Living in the Future, sign up for 7 days there, get you added into a group chat. You can be like the founding member of that group chat. And the price is actually going to be higher when I set up the new tier. That's just how it is. And I apologize for that, but that's how it is. I said from the last tier that the people who are here early are going to be rewarded for that. And I meant it. And so I'm going to set up a new tier probably this weekend or early next week. It's going to be a little bit more. It's going to have the same benefits. Secondary group chat. We're going to have some people from the existing one and myself in there. But it's going to be a little bit more money. We just have to have that filter there. Otherwise, it's going to be completely full of spam. And honestly, I have no issue charging for that. None. Because the amount of work, time, and energy I put into this, it's not something that I just wake up and do. Like there's a lot of work that's gone into this. And if you compare it to other things, I think about this all the time. I went through the school system, college, university, took my CPA, and I was charging people, or the company that I worked for was charging people about $200 per hour for my time. Just by going through the system and doing the right things, passing some tests, all of a sudden I was $200 an hour worth of value to people. And I just think that if you compare that to like what I'm doing here, it's night and day. And so I have no issues charging people for this. I think that it's a necessary thing. And it's demand. There's people who are already in there who are getting a ton of value from it. That's the key there, getting a ton of value from it. And so I'm going to set up another one. So if that sounds interesting to you, then sign up today. You can still get access to the cheaper one. But on the weekend, I'm going to set up another tier and we're going to set up a new group chat going forward because it is important. It's important. not only to be able to share resources, ideas, grow together, but also your Bitcoin network. The bigger your network within Bitcoin, the faster you can leave the fiat system, because ideally here, the end goal is that you have Bitcoin, it continues to go up in purchasing power, and you can start spending that Bitcoin that you have, but you have to have people within your network who are willing to accept that. And so the bigger your Bitcoin network is, and this is just a small part of it, but the bigger it is, the faster you can leave the fiat system. So as Jason says, you get the tier price you deserve. So that's what I'm offering you today, is that if you sign up for the Living in the Future tier today, it's $5 a month. $5 a month. I paid $4.50, I think, for a coffee yesterday. That wasn't even that good. So is it worth it to you? It depends what you want to do. It's probably not for everybody, but I think people, including Jason, can attest to the fact that it's a pretty good place. And we're going to just keep replicating it. There's a very long-term vision here for the whole thing, and it's just going to be people within the community who help push that forward. So this weekend you can get it for $5. Next week it'll probably be $8 or $10 a month with a secondary group chat. So something to consider. I know that there's some new people to the channel, and for me personally, when I first got into Bitcoin, I signed up for a course for like $500 US, just to like the most basic things ever. $500 US I paid for it. But it was a good investment because I had nowhere else to look to at the time. I had nobody to talk to about it. So I paid $500 US for it. I think that that's way too much for one. But at the same time, I would have killed for something like this to have off the start. And even like I still pay a couple Patreon memberships to different Bitcoiners because they add value to my life. And it took me a while, I think, to really fully trust that their heart was in the right place before wanting to give them any sort of money. But once I got to that point, it was a no-brainer for me. And these memberships don't include something like a group chat, which I think that a lot of people are completely sleeping on, is the community and the network aspect of Bitcoin. So that you get the shows at once or twice a week, the Living in the Future shows, plus the community there, which I think is the value. Silver Fox says, sorry, I missed that. So what you can do is you can actually go into the description. You click Living in the Future, takes you to a link there. I'm going to take that same link and put it in. No, it's already in zap.stream for the folks over there. It's in zap.stream, but zap.stream is frozen for me. But if you scroll down zap.stream, it says Living in the Future. You can click the link under there, and it'll take you right to the website. So that's what I would say. Oh, are we offline there? No, we're still live. Okay. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'm just going to quickly scan through the zap.stream here. My Path to Fire, zapped 100 sats. Thank you. Question: what's the difference between a 12 or 24 word key phrase? 12 words. Is that yeah, 12 more words. Is it more secure? So we actually covered this on the show a couple of weeks ago, and there's probably a clip on the channel you can find there. It's called 12 or 24, I think, but I kind of went into deeper detail on this, and it was actually James Bond from the chat who sent me a good information on 12 versus 24 words. And essentially, I'll give you the too long didn't read thing on this. Essentially, the 24 words is great. It's more secure because there's more randomness. There's more entropy there, but it's over the top. You don't need necessarily 24 words to be as secure, because the 12 words is plenty secure. That's kind of the whole thing there. And with 24 words, it's much easier to write down a word wrong, or if you're trying to memorize it, it's a lot harder to memorize 24 words. So I think that if you do have the option, 12 words was kind of the consensus there. I use 24 for mine because I needed it for a certain feature in the cold card. But I think that if you're the average person with decent amount of Bitcoin, 12 words is probably fine. Plunger says, true Canadian to apologize for something that is justified. I think that he's talking about me apologizing for having to charge for this. I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, do this every day, show up. I mean, the amount of money that I make from YouTube is laughable. I can pretty much buy a chicken sandwich every month from the money I get from YouTube. So it's part of it. And the nice thing is that it's totally voluntary. I still do the show for people who aren't there yet, don't want to, be part of that yet. But if you do want to support the show and if you do want to be part of the community here, there's an option for it. And I think that I want to continue doing this. And I mean, that's all I'll say. I'm not going to sit here and beg. Joshua Brown says, how much is it? The first one, I mean, so it's $5 a month right now, $5 a month. The link is in the description, or the link is in the bottom of the Zap.stream feed. And it's going to go to either $8 or $10. I haven't quite decided yet for the secondary group there. And then we'll probably have a third group and then a fourth group. So as the case with anything, including Bitcoin, as Jason says, you get the tier price you deserve. And I definitely don't mean that in a negative way. I really just want to show my appreciation for the people who were there at the start, because the hardest thing to do when you're setting up like a Patreon or something along those lines is getting the first person there. That's the hardest part. And then all of a sudden there's 5 there, and then 10, and then 20, and then 45 fills up. But I just think that there's so much value for people. And I wish I would have had something like this when I first got into Bitcoin. So I want to make it accessible to other people as well. Bodhi says there's a ton of value in the Living in the Future group. And it says it's a no-brainer. I agree. I mean, it's just try it out. The beauty of the tier right now is you can sign up for 7 days. You get into the group chat. You can watch some of the videos. They're all available. Like, what would you call it? They're all there for you to watch. The whole feed there. You can go back and watch as many videos as you want to. And honestly, the videos too, the ideas, the different ventures that are starting in there. We talk about stuff that I don't feel comfortable talking about on YouTube, including some security stuff, ideas for businesses, ideas for going around the old system in a way, privacy stuff. It's all over there. So I think that's it. Unless anybody has any other questions right now, I think we're going to start wrapping up here. We're already at 1 hour and 17 minutes. I missed a couple ones here. I'm just going to go back quickly. Timber Crasher says, I feel it's really bad that everyone opts into pool mining, but obviously you want to get paid. It's a hard choice to make when solo mining is practically impossible, but it was meant to be decentralized. That was one thing that I wanted to talk about today, was the bit axe. There was a really cool video I saw on the bit axe. So maybe that's your challenge for this weekend, if you want to. Everything on this channel, everything in Bitcoin, everything in Living in the Future is totally voluntary. But the one thing you could look into this weekend, if you're somebody who's trying to explore different parts about Bitcoin, is the bit axe. It's a miner that anybody can set up at their house for a very low energy cost. You don't need a special plugin in the wall for that. And you can just plug it in and start mining Bitcoin. It's very reasonably priced. It helps decentralize the Bitcoin network. And it's a no-brainer. It's something that I'm going to be picking up here. It's kind of my first step into mining. I eventually want to get into the S21s or S19s, whatever they're at now, and start doing that out here. But I think the BitAxe is a very good first step just to see what it's all about. But he says that you should be, especially with the BitAxe, I would definitely lean towards the solo mining. I don't even know if you can hook up to a pool mine with the BitAxe, but the pool mining essentially means that you're hooking up to a pool, all of your hash rate, all of your energy is going into that pool, and all of that energy is putting into mining a block together. So you're pooling your energy, you're pooling your hash rate, and your odds of solving the next block go up. But you only get, depending on how the payout structure is, but you only get a percentage of the share that you have in that pool. It's very small. And for a lot of people, it doesn't really make sense to keep up with energy costs. But with solo mining, you hook up your Bitcoin mining machine, your BitAxe, you solo mine. And if you hit that block, you're going to earn 3 Bitcoin. You don't earn anything else along the way, but if you happen to hit that block, you earn 3 Bitcoin. So it's more like a lottery ticket than anything else. But I think that if I were to hook up a BitX, I would definitely be going the, what is it, solo mining route. Microdose just zapped 21 sats over in the Zapdos stream. Thank you. As much as I would love to continue, I think we could probably do a whole day of this, of questions and answers. I just love this stuff. This is what it's all about for me. But I think it's about time to wrap things up. Should I? I feel like I had one more thing to talk about here. Where is it? Let me just quickly go over here. Oh, this was a question. So if anybody's thinking about traveling with Bitcoin, if you're thinking about taking your hardware device on a plane or to a different country, I posted a short clip of a video, and there was probably about 10 or 15 comments on there of people sharing their experience with traveling with a hardware device. So if that's interesting to you, go back through the channel, find the video. It's called Traveling with Bitcoin, and look at the comments on there. I think it's either on 88 Sats Radio or the Bitcoin Journey, one of the two. Sorry, it's kind of confusing that we have two channels here, but whatever. But the question was, once you do the recovery, do you still need to know your PIN from your old hardware wallet? So this is asking, like, if you were to, you write down you have a cold card, let's say, you set up your PIN, you write down your 12 or 24 words, something happens to your cold card, but you still have your 24 words. When you go to restore that into a new wallet, into a new device, do you need the PIN code? And I don't think so. I think the PIN code only gives access to your device because you're not entering your 12 or 24 words every time you access your device. So the PIN code is just essentially to keep other people out of that device. But in order to restore it, if let's say you forget your PIN, but you write down your 12 words, that's okay. The device might be shot, but you can always restore those 12 words into a different device and set up a new PIN for it. The PIN code is not related to the backup phrase. If you use a passphrase, though, that creates a totally different wallet. You do need the passphrase for it. And I would, if you're somebody who has a significant amount of Bitcoin, I would strongly consider setting up a passphrase with it and keeping it separate from your 12 words. But don't ever forget that passphrase, because if you forget the passphrase, all of your Bitcoin's gone. You're going to become part of the 17% and growing lost Bitcoin out there. Okay, well, let's wrap things up here. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I got to phone my dad back, see what he's up to. He's playing golf all weekend. He's in a tournament there. So it's probably not too pressing, but we'll call him back. So good show today. Thanks everybody once again for showing up in these chats. I think that it's the best part about these shows is the live chat. And I love these live Q&As. This is the 21st edition of it. We'll be doing it again on Friday. The one thing you could do here is that if something comes up throughout the week that you want to talk about on the show, you can either send a boost on Fountain, you can leave a comment on a YouTube video, or you can send me an email and we'll pick it up next Friday. Outside of that, I see that Joshua has signed up for the Living the Future tier. Again, I'm going to create a new tier. It's going to be double the price. And I'm not doing this to get a whole bunch of people signed up. I'm just telling you what's actually going to happen here. So if you are somebody who's interested in being part of that community over there, definitely take the time today and try it out. If you don't like it, there's been people who have canceled their membership after a month or two, and that's fine. It's not for everybody, but it's for the people who want to be there. So have yourselves an amazing weekend. Sorry, Timber Crasher. I'm trying to wrap up the show here. Make sure to click the like button on your way out. If you don't yet, obviously subscribe to the channel. It helps the channel get in front of more eyes, which is the whole point of this channel. And if you're on Zap.stream, thank you to everybody who is sending the zaps today. It is Friday, and I still don't have any Baileys in this coffee. Should have put that as my goal today again. There we go. We got another sign up on the Living in the Future. Thanks for the stream and answering our questions. I just signed up for the Patreon. Thank you. And we'll see how this next wave goes. I think we're just going to keep growing it. Everything's just going to keep going, including Bitcoin. So with that, I hope you have an amazing weekend. The weather's supposed to be shit here. So maybe, just maybe, I'm not making any promises, but maybe we'll do our second edition of the Saturday show. We'll see. Just because I know it's supposed to be really shitty all weekend here. And when it's shitty, we stay inside. So if not, though, we'll see you right back here first thing on Monday morning. Thank you once again for the questions, for the zaps. Very much appreciate it. And that's it. I like to end the show with something motivational, but you can find that internally this weekend. Get into the Living in the Future tier. We'll get you out into the group chat, and you can start making some hay in there. Have a great weekend, everybody. I appreciate you. See you right back here first thing Monday morning.